Twitter land. This is the We Are Ready podcast. Thanks for joining us today. We have a really awesome panel. Before we get to the show, I'd like to tell you all a little bit about Flagship. Um, when you've been in this space for a while, if you've been in this space for a while, you know how this works. Uh, Crypto can become like a second or even a third job in terms of keeping track of the latest developments, which is imperative if you want to make the best investment decisions. It's just that simple. Try to avoid buying the top at all costs, right? So that's been easy. Well, not quite easy, but that's just been the way it is for people like us. Not everyone's going to be like us, and when the Flagship guys got together and started building their product, they had a different kind of retail in mind. So instead of scouring the internet trying to find out the latest information to make your investment decisions, Flagship has outposts where you have different people within the cryptocurrency industry looking at different blockchains, different projects, and so forth, and providing content to inform the community. So to help people making better decisions. And that goes along with the vaults that Flagship will be unveiling here soon. So imagine retail consumers that can get the information they need, put their money in their vaults. That in these baskets, they have several different currencies potentially. I happen to be the captain for the Stacks outpost, and I keep an eye on what's going on with Stacks and try to keep the community informed. And it's a lot of fun, and I can see just the immense value that this brings to the space for your person who does not want to live, eat, and breathe and drink this stuff like some of us do. In addition to that, Flagship is decentralized. It's an absolute fantastic project. This will be a decentralized community. It will be community run. I highly advise you to check out to see what they're building, because you very well could be looking at one of the next big narratives in this industry as we start to onboard more people who are trying to get a piece of the pie. So thank you, Flagship, for what you're building, for your great support. And with that in mind, let's go ahead and get this show started. Good morning. Can y'all hear me?
Yep.
All right. Thanks everybody for being here today. We have a really cool show. This show is just chock full of builders. We have Atlas, who is here on our very first episode, as we were kind of filming the pilot, and he got to jump in the last 10 minutes or so. I'm like, no, people need to hear from this man. So thanks for coming back, Nat. And we have Dylan from BitflowFinance. Dylan is a absolute giga chad, and we also have Bought from UWU Protocol. Again, this is the content you want to see. You want to know what's on these guys' minds, what they're building. And so let's just go ahead and get right to it. I'm gonna go ahead and go clockwise on my screen. And Dylan, why don't you tell us a little bit about BitFlow and how it started and what the idea is? What you got for us?
Yeah, I could probably talk about that for a while, but I'll try to give you a quick intro. So BitFlow it's a protocol that's built on Bitcoin and Bitcoin layers. that helps DeFi users achieve permissionless trading, earning, and borrowing with native BTC and other digital assets that are defined on Bitcoin. Like if you've heard about Uniswap, right? Like you probably heard about Uniswap, but maybe you haven't heard about Curve. Well, Curve actually just flipped Uniswap as the largest DEX with the most trading volume on Ethereum. And they got their start by helping users trade between price similar assets. So like different versions of stablecoins and different versions of wrapped or pegged Bitcoin, right? And right now, if you want to trade between stablecoins that are defined on Bitcoin and Bitcoin L2s, you have like a terrible exchange rate. But we built the only exchange that gives you a good rate. We did that using the same stable swap invariant automated market maker that Curve implemented. But we did it with Clarity smart contracts on Stacks. And we think this is important because without, it may not be quite as sexy as some of the BRC20 stuff that's going on, but without this plumbing, basically, I feel like Bitcoin DeFi is going to be limited in its potential because you'll have these liquidity pools that will remain fractured.
That's cool, man. Let's go on real quick to Bought. Tell us a little bit about UWU protocol. There's a reason I wanted to have you both on at the same time, and we'll get to that in a minute. But just go ahead and tell us a little bit about what you're working on over there.
Yeah. So UWU protocol is a decentralized stablecoin protocol built on Stacks, built with a focus on simplicity. So by design, there's no governance, no upgrades. It's 0% interest borrowing, backed entirely by decentralized assets like Stacks. No, wrapped or pegged assets. Completely just Stacks backing it. So yeah, it's really built on this idea of building an actual censorship-resistant stablecoin that you can borrow without paying these insane fees like you'll pay on other networks.
Yeah, that's important in and of itself, and it's very cool seeing the idea of a stable coin that is pegged by Stacks, and we'll get into how that works here in a little bit. And Nat, good morning, man. Why don't you tell us a little bit about what you've been up to with the NFT Clothing Club? Oh, can't hear you, brother. Yeah, your sound's not coming through. Let's see. Okay. Well, while Nat's working on getting yeah.
All right, that's better.
Yeah, there we go.
A few little settings. Okay, yeah, good. Thanks for inviting me again, Jack. Great show, man. I know you've been running it consistently, going hard since the first edition, and yeah, Dylan and Bought was good. I know we've connected in the background. Dylan and Bought, I know we've connected through the doc, who's not available with us today as well. He does some great work as a community manager for both NFT Clothing Club and Stacks London as well. So with NFT Clothing Club, we're getting very, very close to being to starting to announce the actual drop, the first drop. 2100 caps, designs, and 3D metaverse items as well. And the last 100 of those 2100 also come with very special handmade physical caps that have some real world utilities as well, as we have two-factor encrypted NFC chips in the caps, which allow people to kind of verify their connections to other people and receive rewards in Stacks and soon obviously SBTC. So we've been working for the best part of like 18 months on this. And it started off with us doing a lot of physical research and doing a lot of work on the physical side. We brought in an amazing developer who's a part of the Stacks ecosystem and community around 4 or 5 months ago now, and he's managed to get all of the smart contracts ready in a really short space of time. And we had a bit of a problem with generating the actual designs at one point. So the doc has been like slaving away doing these designs one by one. So even the actual NFTs themselves, the graphics are all actually hand designed as well. So yeah, we've done a few collaborations recently. So yeah, look out for those coming in the drop. We'll be announcing the date really soon.
That's cool. And I know you all have been working on this for a long time. I mean, y'all were working on this before I even got into the ecosystem. It's interesting because in my mind, this is what makes crypto what it is. You know, there's no barriers to entry. There's no permission. You just go in there, you build what you're going to build. You try to find what the market needs and what the market wants, and you go from there. And that's a beautiful thing. I think that real life should work like that a little more than it does. And with that in mind, I kind of want to get your opinions on what DeFi actually means to you. You know, I know when I think of DeFi, I think of yield, I think of liquidity pools, I think of food tokens, I think of all of these different things, and I think this is based on how long you've been in the space and what you've done and what you've dealt with. And so there may be viewers out here watching right now who are not too familiar with it. Maybe they just came in, you know, when NFTs were hot, and they're sitting here learning, they're hooked, they got like the rest of us did. And so Dylan, to you, what is the significance of DeFi?
Yeah, I guess we could break it down into like the two parts, right? So decentralized finance, there's got to be some sort of financial activity going on. So whether that's trading or borrowing and lending, right? And maybe earning some type of interest, right? Where does that yield come from? And then the decentralized part, you know, decentralization sort of exists on the spectrum. But yeah, the key component I think you kind of touched on already, like the permissionless nature of it, not having to ask anyone for permission to perform some type of financial activity, and the ability to be like self-sovereign.
Yeah. No, that's beautiful, man. How about you, Bot? I'd like to hear what DeFi means to you.
Yeah, to me, DeFi is open protocols that anyone can build on, anyone can use across the world without need for verifying their identity, who they are, their financial status. Just building these layers that were previously closed off for, those who had good financial status, those who were on Wall Street, those kinds of things, opening it to everybody.
Cool. And Nat, you've been in the space a long time, not just as a builder, but as a retail participant. Our history in this space is pretty similar in terms of, in investing. So it's kind of an old hat around here. What do you think about DeFi?
I mean, these guys got it pretty bang on, but I think from my perspective, it's like taking traditional finance and what we believe is the traditional finance infrastructure and creating what both of those guys just said, like a space where we have it as permissionless, so we can join and build and do what we want, basically, with what would be considered traditional finance applications, along with a lot of new innovative ways of enhancing those experiences of traditional finance. And I definitely resonate a lot with what Bort said, with the access to finance and access to capital or access to value creation, and creating our own financial models and vehicles to be able to create possibly obviously a better financial landscape for others, but I believe everybody probably starts off with trying to create a better financial situation for themselves. So yeah.
Right. And it's equal opportunity at its finest. I mean, that's kind of the point here. You tear down the barriers for everybody. And then it's just a matter of people making their choices, but the important thing is having good products to work with. And so what do you think, and we'll start with you again, Dylan, what do you think has been one of the pitfalls or failings of DeFi up until this point?
Well, I don't know if it's just DeFi, but it seems like we've got like a PR problem.
Well,
Um,
yeah, it's
yeah,
the world against us. I mean, for one,
right.
you start there, but some
Yeah,
some of it's well deserved.
yeah. I mean, there are a lot of bad actors, I guess, in the crypto space. We learned that I think FTX declared bankruptcy, I think, on my birthday last year or somewhere around my birthday.
Happy
That was
birthday, investor.
um, but yeah, I mean, that kind of stuff is the inspiration for the good actors in the space that are trying to build what we're building. And yeah, if I can toot Bot's horn for a second, I really like what he's building because of the totally limiting governance is really hard,
Right.
So if you're building a protocol that doesn't have governance, I mean that's pretty powerful. Yeah, so sometimes like you have I mean there can be Oracle risk, right? There can be governance risk, like how decentralized is the protocol really? Like maybe the majority of users want to push something through, but the majority of unique users on the platform, right? But then there's a minority of token holders that really control everything. So yeah, and it just takes time for a protocol to become more and more decentralized. But I mean, look, I would say like Bitcoin is our best chance at having separation of money and state. And so we've got to have these protocols that are built around it so that you can build an economy around it.
Exactly. I think that's the part that a lot of people don't land on, especially people who we consider to be, maxis. You have to, if you want to have hyper Bitcoinization, you need to have a Bitcoin economy. Therefore,
People have to use it.
you need financial products that people can use. TradFi has a lot of innovation and has led to prosperity. TradFi's problems are legion, but you still need these products and these innovations, and so if you remove the fiat currency from the equation and you put in the best money that's ever been developed, well, it's a no-brainer to me, at least, that you would want to see this work on Bitcoin. If you'd asked me what I think one of the problems with DeFi was, is this unsustainable yield. People back in DeFi summer were like, oh man, if I if I buy this many tendies and I stake them and I'm getting 500% or 1,000, it got ridiculous for a while. But really what you were getting in yield were these whole other tokens. And I don't hold that against anybody, because I don't believe this space matures without innovation, and you don't have innovation without experimentation, and experiments by necessity mean some are going to be better than others. So how does BitFlow kind of philosophically and like mechanically deal with this idea of yield?
Yeah, it's a great question. Where does the yield come from? You should always be asking that, right? So the way that we handle it is there's a trading fee that is collected on all swaps. And say you're trading between like stablecoin A and stablecoin B, right? The payout and yield is going to be in stablecoin A and stablecoin B, right? Or if you've got a pool that's between Bitcoin and a stablecoin, your payout is going to be in Bitcoin and that stablecoin, depending on the trading activity. So if there's no trading activity, there's no yield. But if there's a lot of trading activity, there's a lot of yield. And that is how we're going about building something that is sustainable and built to last as long as Bitcoin.
Right. That's cool, man. And that's it's not just sensible, but you're getting actual like you say, stable coins that are pegged, that you don't have to worry about this. Usually don't have to worry about this massive inflation, right? Or you're going to get Bitcoin. And bought your protocol, the UWU protocol, does in fact have tokens associated with it. But I don't think, from the research I've done, writing about what you're working on, and checking out what you've built, those coins are not just simply yield coins. And like you said, there's no governance. So tell us a little bit about how someone interacts with UWU protocol, and how do they see a return on their investments?
Yeah. So at the core, we have a dual token system, which is the first token, the stablecoin, and we have a secondary token, which is XUWU. So XUWU, its whole purpose is just that revenue share. So it just inherits the revenue coming out of the protocol directly. It's not, like you said, it's not governance or anything. So you have kind of two sides you can interact. You can interact on the side of, I'm going to go to UWU, I'm going to borrow, I'll put some stacks in, I'll borrow against it, use my stable coin wherever. And you have the other side, which is, I think UWU is going to perform well, or, I want to be more on the investor side. You have XUWU, which is that secondary token, which collects that revenue. And that revenue is only coming from the borrow fee. So we're 0% interest, but we have a 1% one-time fee you pay up front when you borrow. And that revenue from that fee is going back into the XUWU token. And then we have other things we're building, like we have the stability module, which collects fees from swaps. That's just simply a one-to-one exchange with other stablecoins. And then that revenue goes back into XUWU as well.
That's really cool. What was going through your mind when you built this? Because, it's a novel protocol, to say the least. So what was your real, just absolute inspiration for doing this?
Yeah, I think the first part was just kind of the experimentation of trying to build it, and it kind of went from just, I'm just gonna see if I could build a stablecoin, kind of learn the ins and outs, and then from there, it went to basically learning in depth the amount of issues that most stablecoins have. And it's not fiat stablecoins, it's more these decentralized, or I should say decentralized in name stablecoins, which, they're backed by, sure, maybe there's some Ethereum backing it, and then there's some wrapped Bitcoin that's held by a custodian backing it. And then there's governance where 70% of the governance vote's controlled by one person or one party. So it really went down to, how can we minimize those issues and just make it as simple as possible? And that's kind of how it was built.
That's cool. And when someone borrows, if I wanted to, because I love that idea. I mean, in that, you can probably attest to this. How often, when you are just in the middle of a buying spree, everything's popping off, there's innovation happening, you're trying to catch things just right, and you run out of dry powder. So I like these lending protocols when they're safe, right? You don't want to. So how do I participate in UWU? Let's say I've got 1,000 stacks and STX, and I want to take a loan against them. How do I do that with your protocol?
Yeah, so in the long run, the goal is to have multiple front-end websites that you can visit, run by anybody, and you can just log on, connect your wallet, your Stacks wallet, and from right there, all you do is you'll enter, I'm going to deposit this much Stacks, I'm going to borrow this much UWU against it, and then from there, you have full control of your loan from, do I want to repay a little? Do I want to borrow more, deposit more Stacks, withdraw Stacks? Do I want to close out my loan? And so right now, it's all managed from our front end directly on our website, but the goal is in the long run that whole website will be open sourced and anyone can run it themselves.
That's cool.
You might see it on BitFlow in the near future.
That's
Definitely.
that's what I was just thinking. I mean, if I wanted to get some of this UWU stablecoin and then go from there, it seems like Bitflow would be a pretty logical place to land on. So how do you handle the liquidations? With the protocol, I think that's a pretty important dynamic to go through.
Yeah, so being backed by, having a stable coin that's backed by volatile assets, we kind of have to do liquidations to make sure the whole thing doesn't fall apart. So the liquidation system is basically when you open one of these vaults, which is basically the loan, you have to keep what's called a collateral ratio, which is the value of your collateral and the value of your debt. And you have to keep that ratio at 150% or higher. So if it falls under that 150% ratio, then you could be subject to liquidation. And in the event you're liquidated, multiple people actually in our system can go and repay the debt in that vault. And in exchange, they're helping prevent insolvency in the system, and they're receiving some discounted stacks for doing that liquidation.
Yeah, it's elegant. I love that dynamic. And Nat, I do want to get your opinion on this real quick. Sitting here today, looking at these different applications being built on Bitcoin, where's your head at? Like, how do you feel about that? Because I think it's just so cool.
I think, going back to what you said at the beginning, is that we have to have, I think, a level of experimentation. But I think when we got to this 2021 period, I mean, we had the 2017, 2018 ICO period, right? And we get to this 2021 period, and I think like everybody just like totally loses their shit, like totally, like, and yeah, it's like, like for me, it's like, I mean, with the message, obviously, we're trying to promote through NFT Clothing Club. That's how I ended up finding stacks, because it was like, okay, all right, these guys are losing their shit about NFTs and JPEGs and monkeys and whatever. Like, like, why aren't we doing this shit on Bitcoin? Like,
right?
Why is it just so annoying that, like, and I started to just get annoyed having conversations with people, because I was, again, since joining the space, I've been an educator first, like always an educator first. And I went into consulting, and then I started building projects. And as I started building projects, it's like, okay, yeah, we're going down the route of maybe creating a platform with a token, but how do we tie it back to Bitcoin? And we never lost that when we were working on it. It was something that we didn't end up bringing to fruition in the end, but we never lost that vision of how are we going to link it to Bitcoin. And kind of like during the start of I'd say the start of the bull run, but for us, it was like the middle of the bull run. Everybody, starts going crazy, and I'm being added to groups here. And then, hey, my boy knows about cryptocurrency, man. You should speak to him. And I'm like, okay, guys, right. So you need to learn Bitcoin first, yeah, right? Oh yeah, forget Bitcoin, man. I've bought some CRO or whatever. You know what I'm trying to say to you, like, and that's going to the moon. And it's like, bruh, you really don't get it. And then, and then there's so many people. Like I say, I had these conversations so many times. Like, it's not about, this is why we use this get money slogan for our first collection, and we crossed out the money, we put the Bitcoin on top, because we kept getting this thing of, I was saying to people, it's not about getting money, it's about what money you're getting. Yeah, right. You don't understand that. So yeah, it's great. We can all make a little bit of fiat. Don't like saying the word dollar too much, but we can all get a bit of fiat, yeah, right, from all of this activity in the space. But the real mission here, even when it was the ICO seasons, and before then, like when Dash and everything else was created, it was really the trading side of the ecosystem was, or the whole entire of crypto was all about people getting more sats. Right. It was all about trading, and the profit making that you were making in 2015, 2016 was more sats. Nobody looked at this stuff like, okay, we're going to make loads of dollars. Yeah. Right. So, so I think that's always kind of like been the core message. Right. And I think that we lost a lot of that during 2021, because now you've got brands, you've got, the big banks that were all saying, this is worth nothing or whatever. Like, you've got all of those people coming in 2021, which brings a lot of mainstream people that are not going to do any research. They're not going to know about the ethos of the space. They get rugged on the ETH, and they wonder why they get rugged, because they haven't looked at the whole, they've heard the word decentralization, Web3, 10 keywords, right? And they go, yeah, I want to be a part of this. But they're not tracing it back to why was this stuff built in the first place, right?
Right. That's
so
profound.
So I think that's where Bitcoin lies. And I think, again, having all the experimentation is great. But I think, again, and I remind people of this, that Vitalik was 17 years old when he created Ethereum, yeah? 17, yeah? So he wasn't trying to create this whole other network. That wasn't his intention in the beginning. And when you don't learn about Bitcoin, you don't know that. You think, okay, yeah, well, like everything's the same. Yeah, man, great, right. Let's go. Let's get this dog, this camel, and this meerkat, right? And they're all the same thing, right? And that's literally what people think, and it's crazy. Like, I go to crazy events, and people go, yeah, well, it's all about freedom, and it's all about us doing. Yeah, it is about freedom. Yeah, it is about self-sovereignty, but it's all about us doing this kind of collectively, like, not about like these little pockets of. And most of these little pockets are just people trying to get rich. Like, it's not, and they're trying to get dollar rich. They're not even trying to get sats rich.
Right.
Yeah.
So, and that's why we find situations like with FTX, how everybody got sucked in because everyone was thinking about, dollars. And, one of the biggest red flags for me for FTX, was, I don't want to go too long here, but one of the biggest red flags for me was when they started making it accredited investors, right, only for the options and the futures trading, right? The moment I saw that, I removed all of the funds that I'd had testing and using the platform. Like, it was just like, yeah, I'm not using this platform anymore, yeah, because that to me showed me that you are not part of this revolution. You are part of the system that we currently live in, and you will bow to any type of pressure that the system puts on top of you, So that's it, man. That's it. No. I got rugged for about 8 Solana or something like that. Didn't even care about it. I'd sold most of my Solana at the top. I didn't care about it at that point.
Hey, so, man, most people get rugged by it when it goes down anyways. So
yeah,
not too big of a deal.
So for me, that's it. It's just a core thing, and I think that this is why we all really are very interconnected in the Stacks ecosystem, in particular, because there are people here that believe in multi-chain. So going back to what you said, it is mostly maxis, at the beginning that were fighting against this, but I wouldn't say that too much, because the maxis also were trying to create, this system of, let's say, decentralized finance, right? They don't like calling it that, because it was adopted or created by, let's say, the other side, which is like the ETH maxis, right?
Right.
But we've all been trying to create this from the beginning. I say to people, Vitalik's like the biggest maxi out here, right? Or one of the biggest maxis out here. And if you actually reading his threads properly and not being a fanboy, you'll realize that he's a fucking he's Bitcoin maxi. Right? But no one's gonna shit on their own creation, is it? Right? So
no. especially not when it's
well.
It's just the second largest crypto, and I mean, it's done so well. And talking about Ethereum brings me to this next point, that Stacks was, Manib and Ryan, they were super ahead of the curve here, because now today, and again, speaking back about Flagship with trying to keep up. I've had a very busy week, and things are moving so fast in the Bitcoin space with ordinals and recursive ordinals. I am behind right now. Like, I sit here today and I'm like, man, I have to sit and catch up. And but it seems to me that
sorry, Jack, you're not going to make it. I'd hate to break it to you, but
no, definitely not. Sitting here now, it's like, dude, they're trying to figure out how to put smart contracts on Bitcoin via ordinals, and I personally think, and I never FUD innovation, and I never doubt it for a second, but it seems to me like you're getting people around to where Stacks already is. right? I mean, why right now, how many years or how many days, how fast we're moving, of experimentation do you have to do on ordinals to do what Stacks already does, and probably much better than, right? So I think that we've been ahead of the curve on this, and with that in mind, in terms of ordinals and where we're going, what kind of role do you see ordinals potentially having in like Bitflow, for instance? You know, where do you think that might go?
Yeah. So let me take a step back. I feel like the thing that attracted me to stacks in the first place was like, when I was learning about Bitcoin, I was like, all right, how's this thing going to be sustainable long term, when it has to rely only on transaction fees, right, for miners. And so I love the idea that stacks helps, like recycle proof of work through proof of transfer, in the consensus mechanism. So sustainable, ongoing Bitcoin transactions that settle additional activity at higher levels. But what's the point of a scaling solution if you don't have enough activity on the L1 already, right?
All right.
So that's why it's great to see people getting really excited about NFTs on Bitcoin, right? But better because the data is actually stored on chain, like, with ordinals, and people getting excited about BRC20s, right? And sure, there are some people that are trying, like Atlas said, they're trying to get fiat rich, or they're trying to, maybe some of them are trying to increase the number of sats they hold. But a lot of people come to crypto to hit home runs, not to hit singles. Um, so at Bitflow, what we're trying to do is, meet users where they are with what they're excited about. So that could mean trades between like an OXBT BRC20 and native Bitcoin. Um, and, that's like meeting users where they are today. But, at the same time, building this plumbing and this infrastructure that is needed for like a sustainable Bitcoin economy long term, right? Um, Letting them have their fun at the casino, at the crypto casino today, and getting them to eat their vegetables later.
I like that. I like that. It's really cool, and I want to diverge here just a little bit, because Dylan, you and Bought and Atlas, you guys are all just passionate, dedicated builders in this space. And when people come into this space, some people just really get obsessed with it. They recognize that they're looking at the future, and they want to be a part of this. And frankly, I think, me personally, and this won't be this way forever, but I do think that right now your best builders are people who are kind of making their bones in the trenches in this space, which is to say, people who've just been in the grind. They're experienced. They understand crypto at a deep level already. um what has been your experience just getting started as a builder here, and if you don't mind telling us a little bit about how you got your start?
Sure. Do you want me to start, or?
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Okay. Yeah. So I started off in my career doing like network design engineering, and ended up getting into Bitcoin around like 2017, around like I guess during some of the ICO craze. Had no idea what I was doing or what I was investing in. Um, you know, just trying to hit maybe not even a home run, but a grand slam, right? Um, and in my own work, I realized that I was like automating a lot of I was like automating my job away. And uh, so realized that I wanted to study computer science, went back to school at Georgia Tech and got my master's degree there, and was probably like this close to becoming a Solidity developer, because I knew I wanted to be helping to build up like permissionless economies, right? And but I just saw one tweet about stacks, And I was like, this is an area where I want to double down, unlocking additional functionality with Bitcoin. And yeah, and you mentioned like, you know, something about talking to people in real life about this. I think, you know, I'm glad I've got you guys to talk to, because a lot of my friends in real life don't really care about this stuff. So
No, it's true still.
but yeah, I guess what did that answer your question, or
Yeah. When did you, when you started building, how did you come across settle on Bitflow? Like, what was that process like for you?
painful? Yeah, I wasted a year building something that nobody cared about. But I thought it was like very technically interesting, and you know, I kind of put it out there, and it was crickets. So it turns out if you want to build something, you actually should maybe talk to customers and see if anybody's interested, right? And so this was something that was definitely missing. The ability to swap between price similar assets, right? It's like a fundamental building block for DeFi. Like all the $1 billion protocols on Ethereum like rely on not having fractured liquidity. So if we want this to be big on Bitcoin, someone's got to build it. And so we stepped into that role after talking to a bunch of users. Yeah, I mean, even like before we went live, if you wanted to trade one stablecoin for another, that was defined on Bitcoin layers. It would be like you're maybe taking at best a 20% discount, and at worst like an 80% discount, and you're not going to see exponential growth with those solutions. So, but yeah, I can't take like all the credit for seeing that this was the right way forward. I ended up going through the Bitcoin Startup Lab, which was like, yeah, I would say it changed my life, because I was a builder, right? And I didn't really know. Excuse me. Yeah, I was a builder, and I didn't really understand as much about entrepreneurship. And so Albert sort of took me, who runs that program, from 0 to 1 there. And yeah, I couldn't recommend that program like highly enough, you know. And then that helped us. Yeah, that helped prepare us for the Bitcoin Frontier Fund accelerator that we're going through right now. And we got a demo day coming up for that on June 27th. So I'd love to see you guys there.
Very cool. And yeah, I'm hoping I'll have Albert on the show here in the near future. His understanding of entrepreneurship is pretty unparalleled. He's a absolute gigabrain. And Bought, how about you? How'd you get started building in this space?
Yeah. Wow. So I was into Bitcoin probably around the time Dylan was saying, like 2017, but I wasn't in it. Like I was talking about it with some friends, but I wasn't paying attention to it enough. And it was probably around 2019, 2020, I started to get more into it. And I started developing a little after the mainnet launch for Stacks 2.0. So I actually found Stacks on its launch day from Twitter by accident. I had no idea what it was. No, I didn't even know what I was looking at. I just saw the tweet come up, and I started reading about it. And from there, I started learning, Clarity. And, I haven't built anything on Solidity or with Solidity or anything like that. So really, it's my first place I've built on blockchain, besides trying to experiment with like Bitcoin. Yeah, so I found it from there. Before that, I was kind of experimenting on my own stuff, like apps and stuff, a few years before that. Websites, those kinds of things, more front-end design.
Cool, man.
I don't know if I believe Bought about that. This is the first thing that he's built. I think he's keeping his identity hidden. I think he's built a lot of other great stuff, and just wants to keep that separate.
Satoshi, is that you? That's really cool. I like your protocol a lot. I think it's going to change the game. and that there is a common thread here that everyone has already kind of hinted at, in that, you know, people who were already in this space understood Bitcoin. They understood the value proposition of stacks right away, and like I said, I think now the rest of the market is starting to catch up. And I think once stacks is a little faster, and when you have SBTC, I think the whole lid's going to be blown off the whole thing. What are we, you know, you've been a stacks educator and advocate and event coordinator and all of these different things, and so where you're at right now with Stacks London and NFT Clothing Club, and just tell us what your summer is going to look like.
Okay, it's definitely going to be busy, I can tell you that. I don't know where the time's going to go, but there is quite a lot of stuff that we have going on for Stacks London. So I'll speak for Stacks London on the first side, and just so that people who don't know, Stacks London is a community-led, completely grassroots organization that is independent of the Stacks Foundation, but supported somewhat by the Stacks Foundation. And we've kind of created, I'd say, our own presence. And Stacks has a program called the Chapters Program. The foundation runs this program, which is for regional-based communities, basically. It doesn't have to be necessarily a whole country, but for us, certainly, we are the only, let's say, representative Stacks group in the country. So we're focusing on a lot of different things. We started off focusing on really events and bringing Stacks and the knowledge of Stacks to London and to the wider outskirts areas of London. So that's where we do most of our events. And then further to that, we are building out to create a better onboarding, training, and the like for developers, and really a place where creators and anyone really interested in cryptocurrency could come, find out about Bitcoin, and then find out, you know, so again, it's still pretty Bitcoin first. So find out about Bitcoin, then find out about Stacks and how they can create using Bitcoin or Stacks to do that. So yeah, we've been finding it pretty good over the past 8 months now. We've been alive. We've done like 6 events. We've got event number 7 coming up at the end of the month, which is a slightly larger event. And this is focused around Cody's law debate, and yeah, it should be pretty exciting because we're bringing lawyers and developers together to have a fireside debate on the stage for the first ever time in history. So that's going to be pretty cool. So for summer, there's so much other things that I'm doing as well, right? So it's like one of the key partnerships that we have at Stacks London is with another place that I work, which is the UK's longest running crypto community, which is called CoinScrum. And that has been running since late 2011, early 2012. So, you know, I've been there. It was the first event I've ever went to, first meetup I ever went to back in like 2014, 2015, I think it was, I went there. And I'm now the head of events for that as also. So that is going to be building up into a much larger venture. It's a completely no-shill space at CoinScrum, so we don't talk about any particular project, but we do, you know, have people come down and maybe talk about exciting ideas. But we try and keep it, again, more focused towards core infrastructure, so it does end up being a lot more Bitcoiner focused. So yeah, we're partnered with CoinScrum. So we you know, we run 2 events that are CoinScrum partnered events a year as well. But on the flip side of that, we're about to actually just do a press release for this thing called the developer track, we're calling it at the moment. So with the developer track, we have like a unique developer program in which we've partnered with development houses, larger development companies. Can't name any until the press release goes out. Right. But yeah, we've partnered with some bigger development houses and development companies, but they are pretty much, you could say, Stacks Foundation approved companies. And we're also taking on partnerships with companies who are wanting to become Stacks, let's say, approved development companies. And that is to help, obviously, founders coming into the space that may have a bit of money, or they're going for a raise, but they haven't really got a development team or don't really know much about building technical wise on stacks. So being able to get some nice deals for them and get the right teams behind them to build. The second part of that now is we're partnering with education institutions and also with the Clarity instructors in a way that we are able to bring those people in, get them trained up from the development houses, right? So these are guys that don't know, they've got maybe big development operations, but they don't know anything about Clarity or Bitcoin. So we bring them in, we get them trained up, and then they are able to kind of work their way up into that approved developer status. And then also those same companies that are already approved, that have a long history of stacks, they will be helping us to provide education to the third part, which is budding developers or developers that are independent in the space. And we're also configuring a way for them to be able to share contracts as well. So developers that might be looking for work, that know quite a lot about Clarity or just learning Clarity, then they'll be able to have JV contracts basically with these companies. So let's say I'm building the greatest new exchange, the greatest new DEX or whatever, right? I'm looking for, I've got my great idea and everything, but I'm looking for a developer to work with me as the core guy. I go to a developer, he says, yeah, great, but this is certainly not a one-man job, obviously, right? Who can he turn to work with that he can trust, right? He can come to bring that contract to one of these companies, still get his profit share, still work as the lead developer on the project, but then have a whole team behind him as well, right? So we're trying to create kind of like a circular economy for developers coming into the space, and also for budding developers to be able to gain that education, get themselves into a professional position, and then either be employed by one of these companies or work as an independent contractor with those JV contracts. So that's really, really massive. And you guys are the first actual podcast, anything, announcement thing that we've done that much talking about it. So, but as I said, the PR is due to go out next week anyway. So, I'll definitely give you that, Jack, every time. No problem.
That's cool.
Yeah, so that's the one of the other things. And then on the other flip side of that, for the creators, we're starting to, I don't know if you saw, but about 2 weeks ago, we did a music space, which is for musicians who are creating around the Bitcoin ecosystem specifically. So Web3 music, we're inviting loads of people from all around the Web3 music space, but the focus is, are you creating Web3 music that is either about Bitcoin, is Bitcoin related in some way, that you built a platform for music on Bitcoin, and that's what that's going to be around. So it's going to obviously heavily incorporate people within the Stacks ecosystem, and we want it to turn into a space that becomes kind of community run. So the creators who are in the Stacks London community are actually running these Twitter spaces, running these events that are going alongside what we're doing, and they're all focused around music. And that is because a lot of my background is in music. So yeah, very easy, low hanging fruit maybe. But yeah, music,
awesome.
music gets enough shout in the NFT thing, and it's definitely probably one of the. I think music is going to be probably the proponent that actually takes NFTs to a completely different level, because we all know about the kind of issues with royalties, and being able to sort out music royalties on a wide scale for, let's say, legacy collections. When that happens, then NFTs will become ubiquitous straight after that, I believe. So yeah.
Yeah, I tend to believe. I mean, people, when they want to put their music on something like Spotify or whatever, they make so little. You have to be so huge and have so many listens, and this technology really does allow people to own their art and get compensated directly for what they do. And everything we've talked about today on this podcast just kind of brings me back to something I always tell people on Twitter, which is pay attention to the builders, because once the narrative is already hit, it's too late. When you have the guys from CoinDesk or whatever calling you for the interview so they can publish their piece about you. It's too late. Like it's too late for retail. You should have already known these things. And you know, sentiment is something that is so fickle that it's just not it's not good for much of anything at all, because even yesterday, you know, everyone was all bullish again on Bitcoin and bullish again on crypto, and just a few days earlier, like on the 9th, all of the talking heads, all of the, oh, it's over, it's done, it's dead, Bitcoin's, and it, you know, that stuff is not important. If you're going to learn in the space and you're going to take advantage of opportunities, you have to pay attention to what's being built. You have to see what people are working at, and I definitely appreciate you for sharing all that. That is massive, and you know, I know how much work you've put in, and Doc especially. Man, hats off to you guys. I think this is gonna be really cool, and when y'all are ready to come back and talk about this, let's do that for sure. We're running down here. We've got a few minutes left. Dylan, real quick, why don't you just leave the audience with the most pertinent thing that you think they should know about anything we've talked about today?
Let's see. Yeah, let me get a pass and let me think on it.
All right.
Yeah, I'd like to think on it for a sec.
How about you, Bot? You want to take a crack at it?
Yeah, yes, Ethereum was the test net.
It's, you know, it's proven more true every day. I did see that they're starting to do inscriptions on Ethereum. I saw this come out yesterday, and it just begged the question why, you know. But yeah, I think you're right. I think that's going to prove to be true.
Yeah, I think it's more crypto in general. I think everything kind of comes back to Bitcoin, or at least the most useful things will be built on it. So, you know, it's always good to keep your eye on the Bitcoin space and not just the Web3 space. I think, you know, like Atlas was saying with the music stuff, I think we'll see stuff, you know, with listening to music and streaming sats to the artist and stuff. Like, I think that's a huge use case.
Yeah,
it's untapped right now.
Agreed. I think it's huge. How about you, Nat? What do you really want to leave the audience with? You know, what's important for them to know today?
I would say just always try and put Bitcoin first, because that's your in the end of the day, that is your, let's say, monetary or financial freedom that you're supposedly looking for in this space, you know. Yeah, like, I mean, it's all good to pay your bills. You know, everybody wants to make a little bit of money, but you know, your forever insurance, savings, you know, inheritance, whatever it is, like, it's gonna be that orange pill, man. It's gonna be that orange pill, like, you you know.
That's true.
Until we see it change, yeah, until someone can show me all the TVL that's locked up in Ethereum on its own without all the rest of the tokens, then yeah, like, you know, people be like, oh, all the TVLs in ETH, and then it's like, yeah, you got to look at ETH, and it's like, yeah, 29 million tokens or whatever, you know what I'm trying to say to you, like, and it's like, okay, yeah, all the TVL is locked in all of these different pockets of ETH. It's not locked in ETH, mate. Yeah, so yeah, I think that's all we can really say. Just be realistic with yourself, and watch and listen to great guys like this. As we said, the builders are the people who know what's really going on. They don't necessarily have to be doxed either. They just need to, you know, have some pretty trusted builds or building or be known. So yeah.
100%. What you say, Dylan?
Alrighty, so I'd say that Bitcoin is our best chance of separation of money and state. I think that's the biggest idea. I also love that the crypto casino is coming home to Bitcoin. People are having fun on Bitcoin again. But we also need these protocols like UWU and BitFlow, you know, that are going to create the sustainable Bitcoin economy long term. And my co-founder Diego would kill me if I didn't tell everyone to go sign up for our decks at at waitlist.bitflow.finance. So yeah, go check it out. And if you guys have any questions, I'm always happy to chat.
Yeah, and we have links for everybody here today. Please check these guys out. Don't get caught up in the hype. Pay attention to the people who are trying to change the game. And when you're talking about building communities, when you're talking about educating people, when you're talking about onboarding people from whether it's just traditional, development or TradFi or what have you, this is the stuff that moves the needle. And this is the stuff that you should be excited about. The hype's great if you catch it just right, but following hype's a great way to get wrecked. Pay attention to what's really going on. And that's probably where I'd want to leave you all. I'd like to thank all of you for sharing your time with us today. I know time is a scarce resource these days for everybody, and yeah, thank you all for watching, and we will be back soon. And like, retweet, spread the word. Let's educate some people. Thank y'all. Have a good one.
Thank you very much, Jack.
Thank you. Yeah.
Easy, guys.